Do you know how a 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican goods will actually affect your daily life? Because if you think it's just about politics, you're missing the financial storm that's about to hit your household budget. Think about this. 60% of the vegetables on your dinner table come from Mexico. Your smartphone, assembled with Chinese parts. Your car, likely built with components crossing North American borders multiple times. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what's coming, but exactly how to protect your finances when these tariffs kick in. The Tariff Earthquake, understanding the 2025 trade policy shift. Did you know the average American household could pay up to $1,200 more per year because of these new tariffs? Let's break down what's actually happening. When most people hear the word tariff, they think it's just a fancy name for a tax on imported goods. But tariffs are so much more than that. They're powerful economic policy tools that can completely reshape trade relationships between countries. Think of them as economic chess pieces that change the entire game when they're moved across the board. The 2025 tariffs we're seeing represent a seismic shift in U.S. trade policy. To put this in perspective, we're looking at the highest effective tariff rate since 1943, a time when the world was in the middle of World War II. That's over 80 years ago. These aren't small adjustments. They're massive economic levers being pulled all at once. Here's where it gets really interesting. The proposed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, combined with the 10% tariff on Chinese imports, will affect roughly 43% of everything America brings in from other countries. Just let that sink in. Almost half of all U.S. imports are about to get significantly more expensive overnight. This isn't a small ripple, it's a tsunami of economic change. What makes these 2025 tariffs different from previous trade disputes is their unprecedented scope and the countries they target. Previous tariff battles typically focused on specific sectors or countries with which the U.S. had contentious relationships. But Canada and Mexico? These aren't just any trading partners. They're our next-door neighbors and have been among our closest allies for decades. The North American economy has been deeply integrated since NAFTA in the 1990s and later through the USMCA agreement. Suddenly throwing up these economic barriers is like building a wall between roommates who've been sharing a kitchen for years. The numbers tell a startling story. Currently, the effective U.S. tariff rate hovers around 3%, relatively low by historical standards. But with these new policies, that rate is projected to jump to approximately 10.7%. That's more than triple the current rate. For consumers, this means products ranging from avocados to automobiles are about to get a whole lot more expensive. Of course, the official narrative around these tariffs often centers on protecting American jobs, reducing trade deficits, or forcing other countries to play fair. You've probably heard claims that tariffs are a way to make other countries pay for unfair trade practices. Politicians love to frame it as making China pay or getting a better deal for American workers. And while these talking points make for great sound bites, they often mask the complicated economic reality. But here's the million-dollar question that rarely gets answered honestly. Who really pays these tariffs? Is it foreign manufacturers, their governments, or could it be us? This is where the economic rubber meets the road. Despite claims that other countries pay tariffs, the research is overwhelmingly clear on this point. American consumers bear almost 100% of tariff costs through higher prices. A comprehensive study from the Federal Reserve, Princeton, and Columbia University found that the full incidence of the tariff falls on domestic consumers, with no impact on the prices received by foreign exporters. Translation: these tariffs are essentially a tax on American shoppers, not foreign countries. Think about it logically. When a 25% tariff is placed on Mexican avocados, the Mexican farmer doesn't suddenly decide to cut their price by 25% to compensate. Instead, that extra cost travels down the supply chain until it reaches you at the grocery checkout. Multiple studies analyzing the 2018 to 2019 tariffs confirmed this reality. Prices increased almost exactly in line with the tariff amounts, meaning American consumers footed the entire bill. The impact goes beyond just higher prices at the store. Tariffs create ripple effects throughout the economy. They can disrupt supply chains that have been carefully built over decades. They can force businesses to make tough decisions about production locations, staffing levels, and which features to include in products. Some industries might benefit from reduced foreign competition, but many others will struggle with higher input costs and reduced export opportunities when other countries inevitably retaliate. For the average family, these economic policy decisions translate directly into household budget pressures. That $1,200 annual cost increase isn't evenly distributed. It hits hardest on products we use every day, from fresh produce to electronics, clothing to construction materials. And unlike income taxes where higher earners pay more, tariff costs tend to hit lower and middle-income households proportionally harder since they spend more of their income on goods rather than services. The timing of these tariffs also matters. They're coming at a moment when many Americans are already feeling financial pressure from elevated prices following years of inflation. Just as pricing pressures were beginning to ease, these tariffs risk reigniting inflation and potentially forcing the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates higher for longer, adding yet another financial burden through higher borrowing costs for mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. Now that we understand what's happening at the border, let's see how these tariff tremors travel through the supply chain before hitting your wallet. From border to store shelf, how tariffs create price ripples. Those tariff tremors at the border, they don't just travel through your supply chain, they multiply. When your car crosses the US-Mexico border 8 separate times during production, that 25% tariff isn't applied just once. It's layered repeatedly like a tax sandwich that gets fatter with each crossing. This tariff pancaking explains why your $30,000 vehicle might suddenly cost $3,000 more instead of the $750 increase you'd expect from a one-time 2.5% charge. Let's break down what's really happening when products make their international journey to your shopping cart. Modern supply chains aren't simple. They're complex webs where parts and components hop across borders multiple times before becoming the finished product you eventually buy. Think of them as international relay races where each handoff potentially triggers another tariff. This complexity is especially visible in the automotive industry. That American-made car you're eyeing? Its journey probably looked something like this. Raw materials from Canada shipped to Mexico for initial processing, then to the US for specialized components, back to Mexico for assembly, then to Canada for testing, and finally back to the US for final assembly and sale. At each border crossing, different parts of that vehicle face the possibility of getting hit with tariffs. Here's where it gets expensive and a bit mind-boggling. With these new 25% tariffs, a car part worth $100 that crosses the border just once faces a $25 tariff. But what if that same part crosses the border twice during production? Now you're looking at a tariff on a tariff. The component might now cost $156.25. $100 plus $25 first tariff plus $31.25 second tariff on the now $125 value. By the 8th border crossing, the compounding effect has turned a modest tax into a major price hike. So what can businesses do when faced with these multiplying tariffs? They have a few options, and none of them are great news for your wallet. First, they can absorb the costs themselves, cutting into their own profits. But let's be real, most companies aren't exactly eager to slash their margins, especially when shareholders are watching. The second option is what you'll most likely see, passing those costs directly to you, the consumer. And research confirms this is exactly what happens. During the last round of tariff implementations in 2018 to 2019, studies showed that businesses passed between 75% to 100% of tariff costs straight to consumers through higher prices. That's right, almost the entire burden landed squarely on American shoppers, not on foreign producers as was often claimed. But wait, there's more. Even companies not directly hit by tariffs often raise their prices too. It's like when gas prices go up and suddenly everything costs more, even stuff that doesn't need to be transported. Domestic manufacturers see their foreign competition hobbled by these extra taxes and think, perfect time to raise our prices a bit while still staying cheaper than the imports. They're not affected by tariffs directly, but they take full advantage of the pricing umbrella these tariffs create. Let's get specific about what this means for your next shopping trip. That imported washer and dryer set? The manufacturer pays the tariff when bringing it into the country. The distributor then adds their markup percentage on the new, higher base cost. The retailer does the same thing again. By the time you're standing in the store comparing models, that 25% tariff has morphed into a 35 to 40% price increase. And that's for a product that only crossed the border once. The electronics industry faces similar challenges with components crossing borders multiple times. That smartphone in your pocket contains parts from dozens of countries each, potentially subject to tariffs, and each adding to the final price tag through this multiplication effect. A 10% tariff on Chinese electronics could easily translate to a 15 to 20% price increase by the time that fancy new phone reaches your local store. This is what economists call the multiplier effect of tariffs. It's like watching a small snowball roll downhill, picking up more snow until it becomes a boulder. Studies show that due to this supply chain complexity, consumers often experience price increases that are 1.5 to 2 times larger than the actual tariff percentage. A 10% tariff doesn't mean prices go up by exactly 10%. They might jump by 15% or even 20%. And here's the kicker. This multiplier effect hits hardest on products with the most complex international supply chains, which happens to include many of the big-ticket items you buy, like vehicles, electronics, and appliances. The automotive industry is especially vulnerable. Analysts estimate that the proposed tariffs could add approximately $3,000 to the price of some vehicles, far more than a simple 25% increase on the total car value would suggest. Why such a big jump? Because each component faces its own tariff burden as it crosses the border. The engine, transmission, electronics, glass, and hundreds of other parts each accumulate tariff costs that then get bundled into your final sticker price. It's not just a tax on the finished car. It's a tax on virtually every piece that goes into making it. The produce in your grocery cart isn't immune either. Even something as simple as packaged salad might cross borders multiple times. Grown in Mexico, packaged in the US, with dressing manufactured using ingredients from multiple countries. Each step potentially adds more tariff costs that eventually reflect in the price you pay at checkout. What makes this situation particularly challenging is that most consumers never see the complex international journey their products take. We just notice the higher prices without understanding all the border crossings, tariff accumulations, and price markups that happened along the way. That $3 increase on your favorite imported beer isn't just the tariff. It's the result of this whole cascading process of costs multiplying through the supply chain. Your grocery cart, fresh food prices under pressure. That invisible supply chain we just talked about, it's about to become painfully visible in your weekly grocery haul. When 90% of avocados and over half of winter produce must cross the border to reach your plate, a 25% tariff isn't just a distant economic policy. It's the difference between affordable fresh food and luxury items that stretch your budget to the breaking point. Let's talk about your produce section. During winter months, America transforms into a nation heavily dependent on Mexican agriculture. When our fields lie dormant under snow and frost, Mexican farms become our primary source of fresh vegetables and fruits. This seasonal dependency creates a perfect storm when tariffs enter the picture. The numbers tell a compelling story. Mexico currently supplies nearly 2/3 of all vegetable imports entering the United States and approximately half of all U.S. fruit and tree nut imports. That's an astonishing $46 billion worth of agricultural products flowing north across the border each year, including $9 billion in fresh fruits alone. Your guacamole habit? That's particularly vulnerable. A staggering 90% of avocados consumed in the United States come from Mexico, with imports valued at $3.1 billion annually. When these imports suddenly face a 25% tariff at the border, the math becomes concerning for your wallet. But this isn't just about avocados. Your entire produce section faces similar pressures. Those winter tomatoes, bell peppers, strawberries, and raspberries predominantly come from Mexico during colder months. Unlike manufactured goods, where production can potentially shift to different countries over time, agricultural products face natural limitations. Why not just buy American, you might ask? The uncomfortable reality is that during winter months, there often aren't domestic alternatives available at scale. Our agricultural system simply doesn't produce enough winter vegetables and fruits to meet demand. California and Florida growing seasons can only extend so far, and greenhouse production, while increasing, remains insufficient and more expensive than imports. This timing issue creates a unique problem for consumers. When tariffs hit seasonal products with few substitutes, price increases become virtually unavoidable. Unlike a manufactured good where you might choose a different brand, nature's growing calendar severely limits your options during winter months. Previous agricultural tariff implementations have demonstrated this price sensitivity. When certain produce items faced import restrictions or tariffs in the past, consumer prices jumped almost immediately. The economic term for this is price inelasticity. When demand remains relatively stable despite price increases because consumers have few alternatives. Grocery retailers find themselves in a particularly difficult position when facing these tariff-induced price increases. Unlike luxury retailers or technology companies that operate with comfortable profit margins, supermarkets typically function on razor-thin margins of just 1 to 3%. This limited financial buffer means they simply can't absorb significant cost increases without passing them on to shoppers. When a grocer faces a 25% increase in the cost of importing tomatoes or avocados, they have little choice but to adjust shelf prices accordingly. Some larger chains might temporarily absorb a portion of these costs to maintain customer loyalty, but the economics ultimately force price increases. Independent grocers and smaller regional chains feel this pressure even more acutely, as they lack the purchasing power and financial reserves of national corporations. The potential impacts on your grocery budget are substantial. Economic models analyzing the proposed tariff structure suggest fresh produce prices could rise 17 to 29% overall, with winter vegetables seeing the highest increases. For a family of 4, this translates to an additional $300 to $450 in annual grocery expenses, just for fresh produce. Let's make this concrete with some everyday examples. That $1.50 avocado might jump to $1.95 or higher. A pint of strawberries currently priced at $3.99 could reach $5.29. Bell peppers might increase from $1.25 each to over $1.60. These individual increases might seem manageable, but they compound across your entire shopping cart, week after week. The timing couldn't be more challenging for many households. After enduring several years of high food inflation that only recently began cooling, these tariff-induced price increases risk reigniting food price pressures, just as many families were finding budget relief. Lower-income households will feel this dietary squeeze most acutely. When fresh produce prices rise significantly, food budgets stretch thinner, often leading to reduced consumption of these nutrient-dense foods. Public health researchers have documented how price increases on fresh foods can shift consumer purchases toward more shelf-stable, processed alternatives, precisely the opposite direction of most dietary recommendations. Some consumers might resort to frozen alternatives, which could see smaller price increases since they're more likely to be domestically produced. However, even frozen produce relies partially on imported ingredients, so they won't be completely insulated from tariff effects. Restaurants and food service businesses face similar challenges. Commercial kitchens rely heavily on consistent produce pricing for menu planning and profitability. When core ingredients like avocados and tomatoes suddenly cost 25% more, restaurants must either raise prices, reduce portion sizes, or temporarily remove certain dishes from menus, all options that impact your dining experiences. The seasonal nature of these imports creates another wrinkle: price volatility throughout the year. While summer months might see relatively stable prices as domestic production increases, winter price spikes could become dramatically more pronounced under the new tariff structure. Budget-conscious shoppers may need to become even more seasonally aware, adjusting meal planning to align with domestic growing seasons. For home gardeners, the economics of growing your own produce may suddenly become more favorable. Seeds, soil, and gardening supplies generally face less tariff exposure than finished agricultural products. Community gardens and local farming initiatives might see renewed interest as consumers seek alternatives to higher supermarket prices. What might this mean for American agriculture? In theory, higher import prices could stimulate domestic production, but the reality is more complicated. Expanding U.S. greenhouse capacity or extending growing seasons requires substantial investment and time. Agricultural economists project that domestic production would only partially offset import reductions in the auto industry shockwaves, why your next car will cost more. From sticker shock to depleted supply chains, The automotive world is heading for a seismic shift that'll hit your wallet when you least expect it. While we've seen how food prices will climb due to tariffs, your next vehicle purchase might deliver the biggest financial surprise of all. The North American automotive landscape isn't just interconnected. It's practically one giant factory spread across 3 countries. Over decades, automakers have built a production ecosystem where borders barely exist. Components zip back and forth between the US, Canada, and Mexico as vehicles take shape, with each country specializing in different parts of the manufacturing process. This border-hopping manufacturing model was designed to leverage each country's strengths: Mexico's lower labor costs for certain components, Canada's specialized production facilities, and America's engineering expertise. But this efficiency-maximizing strategy is about to collide head-on with a 25% tariff wall. The numbers tell a startling story. Nearly half of all U.S. auto parts come from our northern and southern neighbors. When you pop the hood of your American-made vehicle, you're looking at an international collaboration. Those brakes, possibly from Mexico. The transmission, maybe assembled in Canada. The engine control module could have crossed multiple borders during production. Specific models face particularly steep challenges. The Toyota Tacoma, a favorite among truck enthusiasts, is imported directly from Mexico. The family-friendly Chrysler Pacifica minivan crosses the border from Canada. Even vehicles proudly assembled in U.S. factories depend heavily on parts sourced from these countries, meaning virtually no vehicle escapes the tariff impact. What happens when these complex supply chains hit a tariff roadblock? Jefferies investment bank analysts have crunched the numbers, and they're projecting the average U.S. vehicle price will jump approximately 6%. That's around $2,700 added to your next car purchase. And that's just the average. Some models will see substantially higher increases. Economy cars face a particularly tough situation. These vehicles operate on razor-thin profit margins, leaving manufacturers little room to absorb extra costs. When a $20,000 compact car needs to accommodate a tariff-related cost increase, that percentage jump hits harder than on a $60,000 luxury SUV. Budget-conscious consumers shopping for affordable transportation will feel the sting most acutely, creating a regressive effect where less affluent car buyers shoulder a proportionally larger burden. Automakers have several potential responses to this new reality, but none offer quick or painless solutions. Some might absorb a portion of the costs to maintain market share, but shareholder pressure makes this approach unsustainable long-term. Others will simply pass costs directly to consumers through higher sticker prices. A third option involves redesigning supply chains to reduce cross-border dependencies, but that's a years-long process requiring massive investment. We've seen how the industry responds to tariffs before. During previous implementations, most automakers chose the path of least resistance, passing costs to consumers. This created immediate price jumps at dealerships, leaving car shoppers with sticker shock and tough decisions about downgrading models or postponing purchases. The used car market won't provide much refuge either. Historical data from previous tariff periods shows that as new car prices climb, used vehicle values follow suit. The market functions as an interconnected ecosystem. When acquiring new vehicles becomes more expensive, demand for quality used alternatives surges, pushing those prices upward too. Consumers seeking to avoid tariff-related price hikes by shopping used lots may find less savings than expected. This ripple effect extends beyond just the vehicles themselves. Auto parts, components, and accessories will also see price increases, making repairs and maintenance more expensive. Own a vehicle that requires specific parts imported from Mexico or Canada. Prepare for higher service bills when something needs replacement. The timeline for these changes adds another layer of complexity. Vehicles already in transit or on dealer lots when tariffs take effect might be grandfathered in under previous trade rules, creating a brief window of opportunity for consumers to purchase before price increases take hold. But once that inventory clears, the full impact of tariffs will be unavoidable. Some manufacturers may respond with strategic feature reductions, removing certain options or making previously standard features optional to maintain key price points. A model that previously included advanced safety systems as standard might make them add-on options instead. Interior materials might be downgraded slightly. These subtle changes help manufacturers. Maintain advertised price points while still accommodating increased costs. Geographic impacts will vary too. Communities near auto manufacturing facilities, dependent on cross-border supply chains, may face employment challenges if production volumes decrease in response to reduced demand. Border communities that service the logistics networks moving auto parts between countries could see reduced economic activity. For consumers, this automotive tariff impact creates an urgent decision timeline. If you're considering a vehicle purchase in the near future, accelerating your timeline ahead of tariff implementation could save thousands of dollars. Conversely, if waiting is possible, allowing time for markets and manufacturers to adjust might provide more clarity on which models offer the best value under new pricing structures.